the participants gathered here are teachers and or educators, and reimagining the communities is working towards providing a safe space for children for creativity and also expression. So one of the ways we do that is through the CLCP Labs program that empowers teachers through training and mentorship to learn about conflict and peace building, and now to be able to translate that to child language and teach it also to their children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. Okay, so I also I started recording the session. So for everybody, it's going to be recorded. So if you'd like to remain off the recording, then keep your microphone muted and your camera off. But otherwise, if you're comfortable being recorded, then we welcome you to turn your camera on and to contribute actively in the training. So go back to the introduction slide. So that was just a brief introduction to reimagining new communities, who I think you're already familiar with a little bit. So just in terms of trainers, so myself, I'm from London originally. I'm actually based on the south coast of England at the moment in a city called Brighton and Hove, and I have I studied a master's degree in conflict resolution and mediation graduated about 10 years ago from Tel Aviv University. So I do this kind of training quite often, helping people to understand conflict resolution and the types of tools and skills that are available to us as practitioners of conflict resolution. Noam, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Yes, can you see me all right?
Yes, can.
Hi everyone, I'm Noam. My main background is education. I studied education and film and theater. So my main work revolves around developing social emotional connections among youth, mostly ages pre-K to 6.
Fantastic. Thanks, Noam. And we also have Wangari Grace, who will be joining us shortly. Maybe when Wangari joins, I could ask her to introduce herself briefly to the group. So today we're talking about conflict resolution in education. So it's quite a well-established discipline in general, and certainly it fits in very well with the educational context. There's lots of things that go on in terms of conflict resolution in the education space. Sometimes one of the main areas that would be relevant for you as teachers would be for building these skill set yourself, but also perhaps training your students to have these types of skills as well, so that they can be able to resolve conflicts in the classroom with their fellow pupils, also perhaps with their families and with the teachers as well, and just generally in their lives as well. So there's lots of different areas that we can apply these skills. And then just a little bit on housekeeping. So as I mentioned, feel free to turn your cameras on or leave them off. If you would like to make any comments, please either raise your virtual hand or you can put things in the chat. I have the chat open here that I'm monitoring. So please feel free to participate actively in the workshop. And if you have any technical issues, please let one of us know. Maybe you can message Salim or Grace if you have any problems. So I think let's get started. So we wanted to do a little icebreaker, just to sort of try to learn a little bit more about some of you in the group. So the icebreaker that we decided to go with is something called Two Truths and a Lie. Maybe some of you are familiar with this activity already. Essentially, the idea is to tell three things about yourself, and two of them are true and one is a lie, and we have to sort of guess which one is the lie. So I wondered, maybe would anybody like to volunteer to say something a little bit about themselves in this exercise, Two Truths and a Lie? And maybe as well we could have the trainers do it as well. So I have my stories ready. So Noam, maybe I'll give you a little bit of time to think about what your truths and lie would be. But yeah, would anybody like to volunteer to say something about yourself? Please feel free to unmute yourself or put up your hand. Or you could even put your three stories in the chat, and I will read them out for the group. So let's see. Is anyone brave enough to tell us a little bit about yourselves? Okay, so nobody has volunteered.
I could volunteer.
Oh, Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Tell us something. Tell us three things about yourself.
I like the rain.
Okay.
I like rice. I like dancing.
Okay, so one of those is a lie.
One of them is a lie.
Okay, so you like the rain, you like rice, and you like dancing.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Interesting. Let's see. I think rain has got to be true, really. I mean, that would probably be quite quite important, I would think. I mean,
I heard I like rain, I like dancing,
I
and
like
yeah,
rice.
and rice was
and
the
rice.
other one. Yeah. So I would say that you like rice would be the lie.
Uh,
Would that be true? I mean, would that be the
why?
lie?
Maybe. No.
Honestly, I'm also going towards the rice.
Huh. Anybody else?
I think rain is fun.
Anybody else would like to give it a go? A try?
Feel free to unmute yourselves. Or,
Dancing.
oh, okay. Austin?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hi, Austin. Okay, the dancing is the lie. All right, interesting.
2 votes for rice, 1 vote for dancing. Well, I don't like rice as much. So no and Elan.
Okay, okay, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you know, who doesn't like dancing? I mean, everyone
Who
surely
doesn't
likes
like
to.
rain?
Yeah, right. But rice, you know, it's a little bit more controversial. Um, thank you for that, Grace. Appreciate that. All right. Okay. Well, look, I'll leave it for everybody to you know, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Feel free to use the chat function. You can put more information in there. But since, you know, we're behind on the schedule, I think maybe we'll keep going, and then we can keep going with the two truths and a lie as we go through the workshop, and maybe we can do a little bit more on that tomorrow as well. All right. All right. So let's kick things off there. So conflict resolution. I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into this because obviously it's a very large field. Conflict resolution itself is actually a bit of an umbrella term, and it can refer actually to many different things. When we speak about conflict resolution, we could be talking about conflict prevention, conflict management. We could be talking as well about conflict transformation. And as well, we could be talking even about post-conflict reconciliation and peace building as well. So when I think of the term conflict resolution as it was taught to me, it's quite a broad term, and it even includes things such as peace studies as well. So peace building is sort of one of the sort of areas of peace studies. So there's something, conflict resolution and peace studies are related to each other. But some people think that peace studies are purely about finding peace by peaceful means, whereas conflict resolution can sometimes refer to let's say, non-peaceful means of resolving conflict. So let's say military ways of resolving conflict. So I put this spectrum on this slide here, which you can see on the screen. I hope you can see that. And this kind of gives you an understanding of the different strategies, the different methods, the different processes by which conflict is resolved. So you see here, over here on the right side of the spectrum, we have war. And you can see here that on this side, we have a low degree of personal control. And then all the way on the left side, we have unassisted negotiation, which is in this direction gives you a high degree of personal control. And so around the middle here, we have sort of just general negotiation and, assisted. And then so you can see here on the sort of near the middle, we've got mediation, which gives you a high degree of personal control. And then on the other side, you've got arbitration, because arbitration is typically the judgments in arbitration are determined by an arbitrator, and they're usually final and binding, and you can't dispute the judgment of the arbitrator. So you have a lower degree of personal control here. And as you can see, between arbitration and war, you have litigation, which is a very traditional form of conflict resolution. And so, if you've ever experienced being in a civil kind of dispute resolution process, then of course, you have less control over that, because the judge will make a determination about who is right and who is wrong. So for the purposes of this workshop, we're going to be focusing, more on the left side of the spectrum, because we want to encourage people such as yourselves, teachers, when you're in the classroom and when you're in your school lives, to do things maybe earlier, and maybe with an understanding that if you use these approaches, then you can have a greater level of control. So before I move on, if anybody has any questions, please write them in the chat or put your hands up, and we'd like to hear any questions. But also we'll have some time, maybe a little bit at the end, for a Q&A, and we'll do that both today and tomorrow as well. So I wanted to give you just one main sort of piece of theory that is relevant to the field of conflict resolution. So this diagram here is representative of a piece of work by two psychologists, Thomas and Kilman, who came up with this conflict modes approach, and it's all the way back in 1974. So actually the field of conflict resolution came out of post-war studies in psychology. And this was sort of one of the first and the main sort of parts of the theory. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it's usually presented at these types of training sessions, because it helps people to understand that different people respond to conflict in different ways. So as you see here from the diagram, right up here in the top left where we've got concern for substance is high, then you have the competitors. So people in this area, they want to be a winner at any cost. It doesn't matter to them what happens to the other side. And that's low concern for relationship or cooperation. And down here in the low section, you've got withdraw or avoid. So you have people who don't like engaging in conflict, and so they just want to get what they can and get out of there as soon as possible. In the middle of the spectrum here, you have people who compromise, people who are happy to have a sort of like a win-win approach. You just split the difference, 50-50. That's okay for them. And then down here with the high concern for relationship and low concern for substance, you've got the accommodators, people who give in to conflict. I'm a classic conflict accommodator. I like to put the emphasis on building relationships. So if ever I find myself in a conflict, I'm quite happy for the other side to feel that they win, just as long as I can feel that my relationship with them is preserved. And then in the top right here, which is high concern for substance and high concern for relationship, you have collaborate. And in terms of conflict resolution theory and practice, and specifically mediation as a tool of conflict resolution, we really want people to kind of come up here in the top right space of being in a frame of mind of collaboration, where we can have an open discussion, we can talk, and we can try to get a good outcome for everybody involved in the conflict. So this is the Thomas Kilmann conflict modes from 1974. You can actually take this test yourself. So, if you take the test, it will actually tell you after you answer the questions what your default approach to conflict is. And just a final point on Thomas Kilmann, everybody has their own style, and it's not to say that any one style is better or more effective than others. I mean, certainly if people are locked in a conflict, we do want them to try to collaborate as a resolver of conflict, as an intervener of conflict, as a conflict resolution practitioner. We want people to be in this space, but it's important to understand that people respond to conflict differently, and that will help us to help them to move through the situation. So it's more about finding the right approach for different styles of conflict resolution. Okay, all right, so feel free to ask a question anytime, but I'm going to step through the presentation as we go, because we are a bit short on time. Now, we're talking today mostly about how all of you can apply these theories and tools in your own lives. And so there's obviously lots of different areas that conflict resolution in education falls into. So of course, I'm sure that some of you in the audience will have been involved in various types of I mean, I would call them conflicts. You might call it a dispute or even a disagreement, discord, any kind of word in which people have different ideas and that they find it difficult moving past those different ideas. So conflicts can be between teachers, they can be between learners, they can certainly, of course, be between teachers and learners. And then, of course, they can be between the school and parents and guardians, or the teachers and parents and guardians. And actually, they could even be between the learners and the parents and guardians as well, although that type of conflict resolution might fall a little bit more into the community intragenerational conflict type of space. And then finally, as I'm sure you might know, teachers can have conflicts with their own schools of differences of opinion and approach in terms of teaching or other issues. And that area, those types of conflicts might be described as workplace conflict or employment conflict, where it's a conflict between an institution and an employee, essentially. But these are all different types that are relevant to your context. Now, just before we move on from this slide, I just wondered, would anybody in the audience, if you feel willing to share, would you like to give us an example of a conflict that you experienced in your life as a teacher? You don't have to give us any, private information or details, but do any of these categories resonate with you? Have you experienced any conflict in these areas? So I'll just open it up there for the audience to share if you feel that you'd like to share with the group before we move on. Okay. Well, I'll leave. Oh, okay. Oh, Noam. Okay. Okay. Noam, please share.
I'd love to share one conflict that I had with a child that I taught just last week. He came in and immediately expressed his disconcern. He did not want to be there. And have a child in your classroom that does not want to be there. If they're making it their business to tell you that, then they are going to make it your business to know every second of the day. So they acted out. He started disrupting the classroom, and of course was unresponsive. And I work at a school where there's no there are no grades per se. So if there was a situation where there's a conflict and I can't resolve it with him, then I have to speak with the parents. In this case, I had to speak with the parents. And I do have to, every time something like this happens, revert back to my own literature and see how I can solve these situations that are delicate. Because my objective is to have every student at least try to enjoy in the best way possible and be present in the class, and it's the best way to retain things as well.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Noam. Okay, well, look, I'll leave it for anybody to share something. Again, you could put any type of conflict that you've experienced in the educational setting in the chat, and of course, feel free to raise your hand as well if you can find the button. Otherwise, just unmute yourself, and yeah, we'll carry on. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about strategies for effective conflict resolution. And we're starting off with nonviolent communication, which was a process developed by a man called Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And he sort of developed this idea of nonviolent communication from sort of, from non-violence in general, a sort of philosophy that was developed by people such as Mahatma Gandhi in India and Dr. Martin Luther King in the United States, and I'm sure many other spiritual leaders from all countries, and including Kenya, I would think. So I will pass it over to Noam, if you're ready, to talk a bit about nonviolent communication as a good starting point, a good jumping off point into how do we do conflict resolution in our own lives. So, Noam, please.
Okay, I do want to start with a question. Let's see if we have any brave souls to comment or to raise their hand. What do you think is the objective of an argument? When you enter into an argument, what is it that you want? What is it that you are looking for? Now, oftentimes I hear the response to get the other person to acknowledge that they are wrong. Yes, Florence, excellent. I want to be heard. That is the objective of every argument, winning 100%. How do we win? How do we get there? The other side has to hear what you have to say. And as academics, as scientists, we are trying to look for the shortest line between two distances. So we do that through this tool. The tool starts with the tool is, in short, 4 basic stages to get the other person in the argument to hear you, to hear what you have to say. The first thing is observation. And before I get into the 4 stages, a very quick outline. You refrain from judgmental language. You refrain from talking about what the other person did wrong, and you stick to your personal experience. So non-judgmental language, meaning stick to your subjective experience of what happened. So if you're approaching an argument, it's about something specific. So you first start with the observation. What happened? What happened is like a non-partial reporter talking about what happened on January 9th and at X hour. This is what happened. You said this. I said this. We went together and this happened. So once you create the framework, and the objective is to get the other person to understand, what incident are you talking about? If we're not, if we don't understand the origin, then we don't understand why this conversation in the first place. Then feelings. Once again, I feel. If I say, I feel you have been disagreeable. I feel like you have been annoying. I feel like you are angering. Is that about me or is that the other person? So once again, we want to be heard. So we're talking about our experience, how we reacted. When you stole my snacks from the fridge, I felt angry. I felt frustrated. I bring those snacks for myself. Then once you talk about your experience of how you experience that situation, you get into the need. You're going down to the practical. You're always leading towards the request. The need is, I want to feel safe. I want to feel heard. And once again, trying to find language that is more about what you want, not what you want the other person to do. That's where stage 4 comes in handy. That is the request. The personal request is not, I want you to be less annoying. You need something more practical, something that they can hold on to. In the next time, could you be more mindful of what it is that you're taking out of the refrigerator? Because I want to keep my things safe. Could we establish a system where you're aware of the fact that this is my food and I want to keep it for myself? So it starts with the observation. You talk about what you experienced, how you reacted, what you need as a result. You don't want to feel this way again. You don't want to feel frustrated. You don't want to feel angry. You don't want to feel exactly. I want to feel that my boundaries are respected. And that's a beautiful way to put it, Grace. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Wangari. And then come to a practical conclusion. Ask something to be done the next time around, because you can't mend the past, but you can definitely create a solid plan for the future. Now, this is a lot of theory. In practice, nonviolent communication has multiple workshops and gets into the nitty-gritty. So what I invite you to do with, I have here in the slides, I believe we're sharing these slides, Elon?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, so I have attached a list of feelings and needs, so something to help expand your vocabulary. I invite you to try this at least once with a frustrating situation and see how they respond. A lot of times, if you come in with the I want to win attitude, see what happens. If you are coming in with the I want to be heard attitude and keep these 4 stages in mind, try starting slow, try starting with a simple situation, see what happens, see how this dialogue could be furthered. And of course, I'm open to questions about the method.
Wonderful. Thanks, Noam. That was excellent. Yeah, and I was thinking, I mean, we actually, we planned obviously to do the role play, but I mean, I think it might be kind of tricky to do that. Maybe we could try that tomorrow. But I wondered, I mean, should we try and open up the breakout rooms and maybe just practice a bit of, the 4 steps of NVC? We can try that before we move on to mediation. Let's see if we can do this here. Breakout rooms. We've got 3 rooms. So let's see. I'm going to assign. Grace, do you maybe want to help us to assign the participants to the breakout rooms?
Okay, that's all right. But I think we can also do random.
Oh yeah, okay.
You can just do random. Hopefully, we won't get someone from the same school going to the same.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. How do we do random? I don't know. I can't see that. I think it's kind of manual. Recreate. Okay, recreate all room. So we'll have 3 breakout rooms and we'll do include co-host to breakout rooms, assign automatically. Okay, so let's recreate this with 3 rooms. And okay, so the groups have been made and I'm going to open all the rooms. So just to make the instructions clear. So bless you, Noam. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the breakout rooms and we're just going to try and see if we can talk to each other as practicing nonviolent communication. So talking about what you observe from the situation, talk about what your feelings are in the situation, talk about what your needs are, and then make a request at the end. So I'm going to open up all the rooms and let's go and have a little practice. Okay, so everybody join the room and we'll see you in there. Can anybody hear me in here?
Hi, Ilan. Is this another group? Or this is the main? Did he answer? Some people are not. Austin, have you seen any request to join a group? A room? Purity? Aurelia? You can ask for what you want. You can ask for food. You can order food. Security, please, you can you get join a room? Can you see?
Okay. So we should all be coming back in the main room now. All right, so the breakout rooms should all be closing now, so people should be coming back in. Okay, excellent. All right, I think almost everybody is back now. Okay, okay. So how did that go? Would anybody like to share how that activity was for you? I had in my group, I was talking to Willikista, and Willikista was describing a challenge that she was having with another teacher who was sort of resisting to some of her ideas and changing. So we were talking about how to convey that with, by observing without judgment, showing empathy for people's difficulty to adapt to change. And then we just got on to sort of, how to describe the way that you're feeling about that. So that's pretty much as far as we got. Would anybody else like to share? Maybe one of the trainers, Noam or Wangari, do you want to share any discussions that you had in your breakout room?
I'll share the instance briefly. We had an excellent example of a child not bringing in the necessary materials for them to ensure they're studying, and trying to enlist the parent to understand the situation and try to be a part of the conversation to make sure that the child comes in next time with the presented materials. We're kind of discussing the strategies according to the steps on how to get there the most efficiently.
Okay, fantastic. Wangari, do you want to add something?
Yes, so in our group, we were not able to have everyone, but we had a discussion about, for instance, a case where a pupil has not done homework that was expected by the teacher. And we tried to have a discussion and therefore the idea of saying, would you be willing to make sure that next time your homework will be done in the way it should be done and on time?
Wonderful. Yeah, okay, great example. Thanks, Wangari. Okay, would any of the participants like to share anything about nonviolent communication, how that activity was? Is it something that you're familiar with? Have you heard of this before? Or maybe if you never heard of it before, would you like to share any of your thoughts about this process? Nelson, I see that you're unmuted. Would you like to share anything?
Yes, I would like to share an experience where
Hmm.
it involved non-violent communication.
Okay.
Where there was a parent who came to school to claim that the child had a conflict at home, and the child decided to run to school without solving the conflict. The child had stolen the money, and so the child did not want to give the direction where the money is. So the mother resorted to beating the child, and the child did not give the information. So I talked to the child, I talked to the mother on the importance of peace, and I talked to the child on the importance of integrity. So the child accepted to give back the money to show the direction where the money is at home, after being talked to, without involving the any punishment to punish the child, so that the child can give the money. I decided to talk to the parent, the child, until we get the money. Then I advised them accordingly. Then the child was returned to the school.
Okay, wow, excellent example, Nelson, and yeah, well done for dealing with that. Sounds like a very serious situation. So yeah, I mean, you know, I like what you said about integrity, and of course peace as well. But in terms of integrity, you know, that's maybe you could link that to your need because we we our lives in school, obviously the school will have certain values that it wants the students as well as the teachers to live by and work by. And so maybe when you're talking about your needs in the situation, you can talk about how the need relates to the values that the school and perhaps even wider society is important. So integrity, of course, is a very important need for us to live by, so that we can live in accountable and you know, civil and peaceful society. So thank you so much for sharing that, Nelson. That's a great example. Okay, all right. Well, look, that was, I think, a good exercise. You know, apologies to my fellow trainers for sort of throwing a curveball out there in terms of the in terms of the order of things. So look, anybody want to make any comments on nonviolent communication, or if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or save them. We'll have some time for a Q&A. So I mean, I'm happy to go to 1/2 past on the hour, so that another, you know, maybe 20 minutes or so. So let's see how we can go, and also maybe have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. Right. So the next bit I want to run into. So I want to introduce everybody to mediation as a tool and process of effective conflict resolution. And you know, maybe some of you have heard of mediation. You might have been involved in a mediation, or perhaps it's completely new to you. But anyway, I'm going to tell you the story of the orange, and I would very much like anybody in the audience, whether it be participants or trainers or Salim, of course, you've heard this before from me quite a long time ago. Anybody who has any contribution to the story, I would like to hear that. Okay, so let me explain the story. So you're a teacher and you're working in your school, and two students come to you and they say that they would like something to eat, they're hungry, and they want to have some fruit. And you look in the school and you see that you have only one orange available, uh, and you want to satisfy both of their needs, to have some food, to have some refreshment, and so you have one orange available, but you have two students that have come to you to ask for the orange. So I would like to hear from anybody who would like to suggest a way to resolve this particular conflict with one orange and two students. How are you going to solve this problem? Would anybody like to suggest something?
Yeah, maybe if I can.
Yes, is that Alfayo?
Yeah, my name is Alfayo.
Okay, thanks, Alfayo. Yeah, please suggest how would you solve this issue?
So we have two students and we have one mango,
Yeah, mango is good. Yeah.
orange. So I think because they will all want to have a part. So as a mediator, I will cut it into halves,
Okay.
and then of course, yeah, share it among them so that each of them can at least have a piece of it.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Alfire. That's excellent. So basically, Alfire suggested you've got one mango or an orange, cut it down the middle, give them half each, 50-50. That seems a very fair way to solve that issue. Would anybody else like to suggest something? Would you do the same as Alfio, or would you try something different?
I'm Nelson Ongaya.
Nelson, please.
Yes. So according to me, I'll take the orange, cut cut the orange into 2 halves, then share 1 half to the children. Then I keep the other half for later, for future, to be used in the other time.
Okay. Okay. Good idea. Yeah, I like that. It's quite creative. So sort of, keeping half, for future use. Maybe some other students might want, so yeah, that's an interesting idea. So essentially you're giving them a quarter each of the orange. Okay, nice. Anybody else like to offer a solution? Okay, all right. Well, anybody else who wants to contribute, please write in the chat. But let's go with Alfaio's initial suggestion. So what you do as the teacher, you cut the orange in half, and you give each student 1 half of the orange, and they run off and they go and do whatever they do. Now, just after that, you're in the classroom, and you see that the 2 students who you gave the halves of the orange to, you see that one of them has squeezed the half of the orange to make it orange juice and discarded the peel in the rubbish bin, and the other student left the half of the flesh of the orange and used the peel to start making a cake. So they wanted the peel for the flavoring. Now, that's what you see. And then as you're seeing this, you start to think, oh, okay, so, something has happened here. Would anybody like to share what is the sort of the conclusion of this story or the moral of this story with the rest of the group? Any ideas that you might have, please feel free to share with us. Okay. So this story is about mediation because for a number of reasons. First of all, when we saw the problem of 2 students and 1 orange, we typically instantly think that we have the solution to this problem. So we saw the problem, we saw orange, 100%, 2 students, cut it down the middle, 50-50. That's the fairest way. But after you saw what the students did with it, you saw that they did something different with it each. And so what you could have actually done was you could have asked the students, you could have said, why do you need this orange? Or what are you going to use this orange for? And if you had asked them that question, you would have heard the responses from the students. I want orange juice and I want orange flavoring. And if you had asked them for their idea of how to solve the problem, you would have gotten 2 completely different responses, and therefore you would have been able to solve the issue in a fairer way, because you would have been able to give one student all of the flesh to make the juice, and you would have been able to give the other student all of the peel for the flavoring to make the cake. And so this is a story of mediation, because in mediation, as a form of conflict resolution, we are asking the parties who are directly involved in the conflict to hear their story about how to resolve it and how to go forward in the future. So that is the story of the orange. It tells us about a different way of solving conflicts other than the way that we normally resolve them, which is to split things in some kind of a distributive, integrative way of making it fair. So 50-50 or 60-40 or 80-20, it doesn't matter. The way that we typically resolve conflict can be very unfair for both parties, and also the way that we could resolve the conflict could be much more empowering for the parties by asking them to say what they want and what their vision of the future is. So I'm going to go through one more slide just to give you a little bit more information about mediation, and then we're going to end it in a few minutes, and then we'll have some time for Q&A, and then we'll carry on tomorrow talking about mediation and the process and the tools involved. So mediation is, and this is my definition, a structured, interactive, and creative process where a neutral, and that's key, a neutral third party assists two or more parties in dispute using specialized communication techniques to increase understanding and reach a mutually satisfactory agreement. So the main principles of mediation are that certainly, as I said, it's neutral and it's impartial. We, as a mediator, we do not take sides in a conflict. We let the parties talk about their interests and their needs in the conflict, and then we just guide the conversation in a neutral way. So using the language of nonviolent communication that Noam described earlier, we don't judge people, and we show everyone empathy, and we don't take sides as a mediator. And typically as well, the dialogue in a mediation process tends to be confidential, although not in every context. And also it tends to be voluntary as well. So we ask people to come to the mediation on a voluntary basis, that they come because they are interested to resolve their conflict. And so I'll just give you a couple of tools there. Not going to go into the detail about this because we're going to look at more of this tomorrow. But some of the key skills for mediation are reflective listening. So listening actively and then reflecting the information back at the parties so that we can understand really the very clear meaning of what they are telling us. We use non-judgment and empathy and certainly non-violent communication as mediators. We do a very difficult skill of reframing, which, as I said, I will go more into tomorrow. And we can try and use sort of psychological techniques such as emotional anchoring to give people good feelings from the past to try to move them out of the area of conflict and into an area of collaboration and reconciliation. And then in terms of expanding the pie, well, that relates to the example that I just gave you with the story of the orange. So you can see a problem as 100%, but when we engage in a collaborative and creative process together, we can quite often expand a problem from 100% to 200%, and then people, the parties to the conflict, can potentially walk away happier than they would have if we decided what was best for them and we just split it 50-50 and give them what we think they need. So that's mediation. And it's a very well commonly practiced process and tool of conflict resolution. And it can be very structured or it can be very open. You know, you can go through a very set process, or you can make it a much more open process where everybody who's involved, the teachers, the learners, the parents, the school administration, people from the community, you can make these processes very inclusive and very broad where everybody can share their views, and we can have a very open dialogue about how to move forward in the future. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop the presentation there. We've got more to go through tomorrow, more skills to learn, and we're going to have a mediation role play tomorrow. So I will make sure that we share the role play information with you today, which will have general information and maybe also some confidential information for the people who are going to be playing the mediators. And we'll try and give as many people as possible opportunity to play the mediators to play the role players, and then to be observers to the mediation. Okay, so let's see. Right. Well, we're going into the Q&A now. So we got a few minutes, maybe up to almost 10 minutes, to have any opportunity to ask questions, anything about conflict resolution and mediation and nonviolent communication, and how these processes and tools can be used in an educational context. Right. Would anybody like to ask a question?
I think as we are thinking about the questions, I would maybe actually have a question for the participants. So as Ellen suggested, that tomorrow we want to have a number of role play activities where we will be looking at different parties involved in the conflicts. And like you said, hopefully you can have people playing different roles. We already had some ideas about what kinds of conflicts we would want to have our role play around. But like we learned today about the different conflicts that can appear within a school institution, and you guys know these things: conflicts between teachers and pupils, teachers and administration, teachers and other teachers, teachers and parents. Do you have a preference? You know, what kind of conflict situations or role play you would want us to have? And maybe you can actually just type into the chat if you have a particular preference of what you would want us to work more on tomorrow.
Yeah, great question, Wangari. That's very important information for us to hear. So would anybody like to share any specific conflicts? Of course, you don't have to share any personal information, but just talking about the type of conflicts that you encounter in your daily lives as teachers in your schools. Ms. Winnie.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, Eunice?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Eunice. How are you?
I'm fine.
Great. Yeah, what would you like to share with the group?
Okay, my name is Eunice. I come from Kakamega, St. Patrick, Eshibinga St. Patrick Education Center. Okay, what I would like to share today is that, okay, at our school, we normally take lunch at our school. And when we take lunch at our school, the children that we have from our school, they come from different homes. And hence, you find that they have some different habits. So there is one boy who normally, when sharing food, we share them equally. But after sharing the food equally, you see the boy goes and pick some food from other people's plates. So it took a hard time, because when it comes at lunchtime, the boy will take some food from the other's plates, and then the other pupils will start to cry. So when we noticed him, what we did, we took him, and then when sharing, we normally give him maybe a big amount than the other ones. But when we give him a big amount, we separate him from the others, because they will just start complaining that ours is small and he has been given a big amount of food.
Right. Okay.
So because of separating, we normally give the same amount of food, but we separate him. We maybe send him to the office. We tell him, go and sweep there. So when he goes there, he will find their food, and then you add him that food, so that we stop the conflict. So the others have not noticed that we normally give him a big amount of food.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Eunice. That's a very interesting context and very, very helpful for us to know. So am I right in thinking that, so you tried to find a way in which his sort of need for more food could be satisfied, but in a way in which didn't cause any sort of, you know, complaints of unfairness from the other students in the school. So you asked him to do some extra work in terms of sweeping so that,
Yeah.
you know, he could have the extra food without the students knowing.
Without bringing conflict to other pupils.
Right, right. Okay. Well, that's very creative. I like that. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, and would anybody else like to share something or ask any questions? I think we have maybe about 3 minutes to go. Ms. Winnie? Ms. Winnie, if you can hear me, then please go ahead.
I don't have anything.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Well, okay. Nelson, is there something you would like to share? I see that your microphone is off.
Maybe a question.
Yeah, please.
If there was an instance in a school where a parent used to come anytime she felt visiting the parent could come to school, and the rule says parents are only allowed to visit the school during working time, not on weekend. But she used to come on Sunday, on Saturdays. Then when I was in the administrative duty, I had to explain to the parent that it is not allowed. But the parent insisted, and all the time, so after talking to the parent, some other times when the parent could come, the parent could just sneak in, talk to the watchman, sneak in, and go direct to the child. So when I involved the administration, the parent threatened to take the child away from that school. And you know, when the parent does that, it's a loss to the school. So we had to compromise to that parent. We allow the parent to be visiting the child, but in a separate room. So I just wanted to ask a question: was it the right way to solve the conflict?
Okay. Well, without knowing too much of the details, I mean, I think it would have been important to sort of find out from the parent why she was visiting in the different times than the other parents, and what was behind that. You know, was there some kind of need? Was she, you know, very concerned about her maybe son or daughter? So yeah, I would like to get more information, but yeah, I mean, maybe a compromise in that situation was the only way that could have you could go forward. So yeah, I mean, maybe obviously if you wanted to make that rule sort of very firm, then you could obviously talk to the guard at the school to say that, you know, the parents are not allowed to visit, so they can't get in outside of the normal visiting hours. But really, I mean, you know, I think you handled it the best way that you could. But I would like to know a little bit more about the parents' motivation behind visiting the student on the weekends. Why was it that she felt that it was necessary to see the child in, you know, in the irregular time? And then maybe once you know a little bit more about that, then maybe you can find some other creative solutions that would help her to satisfy that need of hers, and also satisfy the need of the school to maintain the rules and also the fairness for all of the parents in terms of when they come to visit the school. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nelson. I hope that helped, and we can certainly talk more about that tomorrow and maybe offline as well if you need more support on that. Okay, well, look, we've been going for almost an hour and a half because we did start a little bit late. But I think we're going to draw the workshop for today to a close, unless anybody else would like to share anything or ask anything. Then I think we're going to wrap the workshop up for today. And I look forward to seeing all of you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Kenya time. And it's been nice to meet you. And thank you for your participation. Really look forward to learning more about you tomorrow, and also giving you some more skills to use in resolving these conflicts that you experience in your daily lives. So, okay, if nobody else wants to share anything, then I'll wish you all a good evening. And thank you, Noam and Wangari, and also Salim and Grace. And yeah, thank you to everybody who came today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you all.
Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you so much to our facilitators, Ilan, Noam, and Wangari, for this session. It's been very informative, and see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Grace. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.